over. There we are. We are live on Facebook. Good evening, everybody. Christy here with the National EMS Museum and two very special guests with us this evening. We have Doc Clinchy, of course, and our new best friends. We've enjoyed having a little conversation with Randy Mantooth, aka Johnny Gage. For those of you that watched Emergency, if you're in my generation, you may know him from other shows that I won't put him on the spot about, but we had a good chuckle. And we are having a slight technical difficulty tonight. So if you have any problems hearing the conversation, drop us a note on Facebook and we'll try to adjust the audio. But otherwise, I will turn it over to you guys. I'm going to disappear, but I'm going to keep my microphone close so that everybody can hear what you're chatting about.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. It's Doc Clinchy again. Randy, thanks for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun tonight. We had a lot of friends in common, too, which is kind of intriguing. I think the first question certainly that came to my mind when we were going to talk, because I never got a chance to ask you this question when I saw you in person on a few occasions. How did you become Johnny Gage? How did you get the role?
Well, I was under contract it was a contract at Universal Studio. And I was just this young kid right out of school, right out of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And I was at Universal for like 6 or 7 months, doing just one little line here and a couple lines there. Wherever they would point me, that's where I would work. Then one day, Monique James, who was my boss, she was vice president of New Talent. She called me into her office and she said, darling, she's had this very affected way of talking. She said, darling, you will be playing, and she held up this index card because she was reading off the index card. And she said, darling, you will be playing Johnny Gage, LA County firefighter paramedic Johnny Gage on a new show called Emergency. And the first thing I said was, what the hell's a paramedic? And she looked at the card again, turned it over, looked back, she goes, I have no idea, but we're about to find out. Well, indeed we did. And right along with the rest of the country, we found out what a paramedic was.
Excellent. Excellent. One of the folks that you were involved with technically on the show was Dr. Ron Stewart. And I think a lot of the young folks don't know how pivotal Ron was. He somehow or other emigrated from New Brunswick, Canada, down to Los Angeles County.
Well, actually, it's by way of Pittsburgh.
Okay. But he was a very strong advocate for the physician assistants. A lot of very experienced medics were coming back from NOM. Were looking for a career in medicine, and he was a big advocate for the PAs. And then he was the guy that really drove LA County Fire Rescue to start training paramedics. They were very early on in the evolution of paramedics. And Ron was pretty pivotal in that. Now, what was his involvement with the show, and how often did you encounter him?
Well, he was, I didn't encounter him an awful lot. I mean, he sort of kind of trained me, a quasi-training at Harvard General, which was in the show, it's Rampart.
Right.
But we got along very well. But I didn't have any daily, we were just grunts. We were just two kids who were lucky to have a job. And so he was mostly in Bob Senator, our executive producer and creator of the show. He was mostly in Bob's office going over what was the correct thing to do, what was the correct thing to say, and what wasn't. And Bob took all that very seriously. Bob Senator, our executive producer, took it very seriously. He didn't want anybody to make anything up. And his mantra was, if LA County fire or harbor general doesn't do it, we don't do it. If they don't use it, we don't use it. So there was not going to be anything made up, anything manufactured. And two people, Jim Page and Ron Stewart, were there to, and Dr. Criley as well, were there to make sure that we were as accurate as we could be.
Jim was an interesting guy also in the evolution of EMS. He was a battalion chief for LA County, and then got to be a lawyer. And then in
magazine editor.
Possessed him to do it. Then he founded Gems magazine.
Yeah. You know, he was a lazy bastard.
Yeah, he was good people. And if you look at people that really drove our profession, it was guys like Stewart and Jim and so forth, because they were out there in front advocating for us. Pretty remarkable stuff.
In Jim's case, you know, he was doing double duty, because he was really fighting a very resistant fire department. The fire just flat didn't want paramedics. Their mantra was, we put out fires, we don't deliver babies. Well, you know, you better reconsider that, because right now, over 80% of most fire department calls are EMS related. But Jim saw that, and he kept pressing and pressing it. And I'll tell you, Jim came close to losing his job a couple times. He pressed so hard for paramedics.
Interesting. And it's interesting to see where some of my colleagues, my peers, came from and became chiefs of department. I think of Dave Downey in Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. He's a paramedic. Gary Ludwig, who just retired as the president of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. He started life as the senior paramedic in St. Louis Fire Rescue. So it's he
also started Memphis's paramedic program.
Yes.
Memphis, Tennessee.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, that's where he went after St. Louis. You're right.
And then he went up to Champlain. I think he's up in Champlain now.
Yeah, you're right. You're following where he is. Yeah, he's living the good life now. He's got a house on a lake with a boat. I mean, I keep getting Facebook stuff from him and thinking, you SOB. Anyway.
He's bragging.
Yeah. Any other folks that you encountered during the making of Emergency who left a lasting impression on you from the standpoint of EMS and so forth?
Well, the two guys we trained with, Bob Beliveau, who's passed, and Rocky Dokes. Those are the two guys that I rode out with. I don't know whether Kevin rode out with them or not, but I learned a lot of life lessons from those two guys. A lot of life lessons.
So you basically were doing ride-alongs with them and to get it for the profession?
After we kind of learned how to start an IV and intubate, and you know, I'm not a paramedic. We didn't take the written course, but we had to go through a certain amount of physical. They just didn't want us to look stupid in front of the camera. They wanted us to know what we were doing.
Sure.
And so we trained a little bit with the paramedics, and we trained a little bit with the fire department. And then we did ride-alongs, and that's where I think I learned the most. Being with these two guys, you know, I'd help set up an IV for them, you know, and just kind of stay out of their way. But that's where I learned that there was a special kind of human being that wanted to be a paramedic.
Yeah, it's different. One of the things that I've taught kids over the years is sometimes the most important thing you're going to do is hold the hand of somebody who is dying. That's something.
Let me tell you, I've always said this. You can teach, you know, just about anybody, not everybody, but just about anybody, how to treat a wound or how to recognize a heart attack. You can teach that. It's easy. But what you can't teach is compassion and caring. That you can't teach. That you're either born with or you're not. You can't fake it. You can't manufacture it. And sometimes it's more important to know how to care for somebody on an emotional level. It's just as important as caring for somebody on a physical rescue.
Absolutely right. And it's something, you're right. It's something you can't teach, but it's something that you develop over time. You said that we went through, before we came on, the period of time that the show ran. It was on for a total of 5 years. Is that correct?
5, and then two additional years when we did our specials.
So 7 years total run.
7 years, yeah.
When did you guys begin to realize the impact you were having on our world, the EMS world?
Okay, now this is going to sound strange to you, but I'll tell you exactly the moment I realized it had an impact. It was 2000, May 1st of 2000. Almost 20 years after the show was over, when the show was inducted in the Smithsonian Museum of American History. That's when I realized, oh man, I guess the show had a bigger impact than I thought. You have to understand, we were just lucky guys who were getting up and going to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, feeling incredibly lucky we even had a job. In fact, the first 2 years of the show, we thought we were going to get canceled. We didn't think that the show was going to last. So at the end of each year, I would always call my agent and say, I don't think this show's going to last, so you better find me another job. Now, the reason why I say that is because we weren't reading our press. We were working from sun up till sundown. We'd grab the next day's script or the next week's script, run out to a restaurant or go home, fix dinner, read the script, go to bed, get up at 5, and this was every day.
Yeah.
And we knew the show was popular, but we were against All in the Family for those years. We never won our hour. Ever did we ever win the hour. All in the Family won every time. The only reason why we stayed on the air was that ABC couldn't counter with anything. They'd throw up a show up there and it would fail, and it became clear that the nation was watching All in the Family and Emergency. And even when Emergency was done, we didn't know what kind. We knew it was popular. We knew it was having some sort of an impact. But I had no idea until I'm standing there at the museum and they're inducting the squad and all the gear and everything. And the amount of people that showed up, that was when I realized, oh, this show had a big impact. I mean, I had no idea. And everybody scratches their head and they go, are you kidding? You wouldn't know this? No, we didn't. We just felt lucky we had a job.
That's amazing. Because as I mentioned to you earlier, I was teaching EMTs in the early 90s. And all of a sudden the enrollments for classes started to go up with youngsters coming in saying, I want to do this.
And now it's the exact opposite. Now we can't fill a certain, New York is having a horrible time.
Horrible.
I was just on the phone today with a paramedic friend of mine in New York, and he said, we can't get people, because Emergency kind of was the shining light that everybody could see. But since that show went off the air, it no longer provides that inspiration to be a paramedic. It's hard to fill the roles of a paramedic, and then with this pandemic thing going on, scared the crap out of everybody, especially the first responders, firefighters and paramedics, and EMTs, ER doctors, and ER nurses. It's going to be hard to fill those coffers.
Yeah, it is. And Fidney is having a bad time, but every department is having a bad time. I was at a memorial service earlier in the week talking to the chief of one of the services in this area. He needs people. He can't fill shifts. He can't fill job slots.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I think it's part of
That's
the,
really good.
I think part of it is what's happening with the treatment of first responders in general. Uh, throw police into that lot, etc. Um, we're not getting the kind of respect we once got, and
No,
that's
no,
unfortunate.
you're not. In fact, the paramedics particularly are taken for granted. And you can ignore paramedics until you need them, until you have to call 911, and you need them to come out and save your life. Now you don't ignore them, but until then, they're underpaid and overworked.
Yeah, yeah. The shift patterns in a lot of services, primarily because they're down in personnel, but the shifts these guys are working right now are brutal.
Yeah, are insane. The overtime, and even with overtime, look, it's hard to have a family life if you're working constantly, and you're being asked to work constantly.
Yeah. One thing I will tell you that I shared with you earlier, but I'll mention it again. I have a very good friend that's a board certified emergency physician, and we were talking about the fact that I was going to do this with you this weekend. And I was talking about the impact on EMS. And he said, do you know how many emergency docs went into emergency medicine because of Kelly Brackett at Rampart? And I said, get out of here. And he said, no, for real. Because emergency medicine was sort of an unknown at the time. And all of a sudden, there was Kelly Brackett in the emergency department doing all this cool stuff and a variety of patients going by. And it prompted a lot of young up and coming docs to pursue emergency medicine as a specialty. And that absolutely floored me. I had no idea until my friend told me that. So it's hard to realize, I think, sometimes just what the impact has been for things like a TV show, for heaven's sakes. Now,
well, if you do the TV show and you do it as honestly as you possibly can, and not turn it into a soap opera, people will watch.
Yeah.
It's when you turn it into a soap opera, that's when people don't take it seriously.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, what's your involvement been since the show wrapped? I know some of the answers to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's your involvement in the first responder community been since emergency went off the air?
Well, it kind of started in Galveston, Texas, when paramedics there asked me to come and give a speech. And this was 1970. Gosh, oh my goodness. I forgot when it was. It was after the show, 1980, 84, something like that.
Okay.
And, got a call and they said, hey, you want to come and speak to us? And I went, sure. What do I talk about? And he said, talk about emergency. So I said, well, hey, I can do that. So I went and I saw all these people, interested in what I had to say, and so I thought, I almost after the show, I almost signed up to be a firefighter, but then I thought, something. Well, first off, I thought the money I make as an actor, the money I make as a firefighter, kind of tilted one way. But I thought, something I can do more good for firefighter paramedics and EMTs, doctors and nurses. I can do more good for them staying right where I am as an actor that I could ever do, if I decided to be a firefighter. So I decided at that point that I would throw whatever I could. See, here's my motivation for staying with EMS for as long as I have. My life was saved by two firefighter paramedics from carbon monoxide poisoning, two LA County firefighter paramedics. And my sister was in Houston, Texas, was T-boned in her car during a driving rainstorm, and her injuries were such that she had to be medevaced out. And while she was on that helicopter, she died. And a flight paramedic and a firefighter paramedic brought her back and stayed with her until they got her to the hospital with a pulse. And here's what bothers me, but it's not it's not a unique story. I don't even know these people's names, and so I made it my life's mission to make sure that people realized you can't take paramedics and EMTs and all first responders for granted. And sometimes they're not going to be there for you. And you take them for granted, and it will disappear on you. And I made it my life's work to make sure that paramedics and EMTs, ER doctors, ER nurses, firefighters stay in the forefront of people's minds.
Wow. Outstanding. Great story, by the way. I was not aware of that. But I'll tell you one thing, though. I was at a conference, and I think it was in New Orleans, but I'm not sure, where you did a presentation. And I don't think I have ever seen a bunch of my peers moved quite as much as they were after you got done with that presentation. And I think that was New Orleans. I believe so. Yeah, it's something. Okay, now, since you said earlier your wife wanted me to talk about this, I will ask about it. You're writing a book.
What are you going to talk about?
What is the book about?
Oh, my book. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I don't know. It's supposed to be about me, but I have trouble with that. I love writing about other people because I have free reign. When I'm talking about me, I get real clumsy. I keep telling my wife, she says, "How many pages did you write today?" "Oh, I don't know. So many I can't even count." I didn't write a damn thing. I hit a 1 year blank spot. I haven't written, so just to cut to the chase, the book apparently, if you ask my wife, it's about me. But if you ask me, I don't know what it's about. I just write, and as long as I can make myself smile or laugh, I put it down on paper. And it makes my wife laugh, but she goes, "You can't put that in there." "Why not? It's funny, it may be funny, but you can't. This isn't about you." So, quick answer is I don't know, but apparently it's about me.
That's great. And do you have a publisher yet?
Oh, hell no.
No, never mind.
I would, well, because Kristen, my wife, is handling it, so I'm just going along for the ride.
All right, that's cool. As I said to you earlier, because I've heard you speak, because I've seen you interact with my fellow EMS professionals, I consider you part of our family.
Thank you.
And I'd like to know from you if you've got any parting thoughts, either to the EMS community at large or to the general public, because you have pointed out some real critical elements in terms of where we stand in the eyes of the public. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on both where we are and where the public is relative to us.
Well, where we are you know, with this whole political thing in the country, you always hear words like we're at a pivotal moment, and you know, and so it sounds that these phrases get overused, and they sound cliched after a while. But we are in a pivotal moment in EMS. We're losing paramedics like crazy because we're overworking them, we're underpaying them, and who the hell wants to, you know, study for almost 2 years to be a paramedic and then recertify every 2 or 3 years? You know, where's the payoff for them? You can only operate on your heart for so long, you know, by saying, well, I was born to do this and I want to do this and everything. You know, you can only do that. That's called adrenaline. You can only do that for so long. Then all of a sudden, you look up, you've got a wife, you've got 2 or 3 kids, you know, and you got to start thinking about yourself. And because the public doesn't seem to want to do that. And they take it for granted that a paramedic or a firefighter or an EMT will always be there for them. They take that for granted. The rest of the time, they're out of sight, out of mind. And I want to change that. I want to bring it to the public's attention that if you let paramedics, this whole EMS system that we call a system, which is loosely scotch taped together, if you ignore this and you let it die on the vine, it will disappear on you. And we made this system. Our country, America, you know, kind of invented this system, and we're going to be the first to let it go. And that's what's happening right now, because we're losing paramedics either by attrition, by PTSD, by suicide, and the coffers aren't being refilled by new members, because these new members that are even entertaining this are asking themselves, why? Why would I do this?
Yeah.
Why would I sacrifice 2 years taking the paramedic exam and then be underpaid and be totally ignored? And now we're you know, how the paramedics became heroes 70s and the 80s and the 90s to villains where you want to sue them and shoot at them. This is the kind of the crazy world we're living in. And it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. And it stays on my mind a lot. And I want to change that. And I'll figure out how to do that one of these days. So the only thing I can do is to do what I'm doing. And that is to be an advocate.
Wonderful.
In any way that I can.
Wonderful. As an old man in the profession, I'll be glad to help you out anytime you need the help to do that, because I'm very concerned about it. Randy, it's been great. Good to see you again, number one, and terrific to spend time with you this evening. And I think you spoke from the heart, and that's really important to me. Christy, I am done.
You're done. Excellent. Well, I just wanted to say you're getting lots of highs. How are you? Thank you for all the work you're doing on our Facebook comments. So shout out to everybody that's watching tonight. I have to do a little promo on behalf of Kristen because she asked. You can reach Randy through his website or through cameo.com. There's a really cool system out there where he can get messages directly and do some special events for you individually if that's of interest. So check out cameo.com, look up Randy Mantooth. Otherwise, your website, forgot to write it down, randymantooth.com, I think.
I think it is, yeah.
That sounds about right. Google it. We're all of a Google age. Yeah. I am moved. I also am not EMS by training. I'm museum by training. And I feel you with the writing thing. I am in the middle of a book and I get from my husband every day, how many words we put on the page? And I say the same answer. So I hope he's not watching this broadcast because then the cat's out of the bag.
I feel for you.
So I think we're going to have to check in weekly and hold each other accountable. But absolutely, one of our missions here at the EMS Museum is to help bridge some of the gaps between the public understanding of EMS and the EMS profession in general. So as we continue to grow through the year, it would be great to hear from all of you watching and all of your friends and colleagues and even your family, what really is best for helping support you in your resiliency, your recovery, your professional growth and development. And we're always looking to inspire another generation. I got a little message from my nephew who's also watching, and he had to call and talk about the ambulances with me the other day. So shout out to my little 3-year-old watching the broadcast. So he is 3. And that is all we talk about is ambulances and sirens and bubbles every once in a while, but it's mostly ambulances. Every time he sees one, he has to give me a call. So that's what I love doing. I love connecting the public with our first responders because you're right. It's really important that we all understand how important this system is to our communities and our daily lives. So thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you for spending Friday night with us. This was truly an honor. Lots of great stories, and we will probably be bugging you again, see if there's anything we can help you with in your advocacy work, because that's our mission here at the National EMS Museum. And to all of our first responders out there, let's kick off EMS week early. I know I'm a couple days, but I'm just gonna flat out say it. Happy EMS week. Let's start the celebrations today because you guys definitely deserve more than 1 week of celebrating every year.
That's right.
Thank you all very much. And we'll catch you next week. We have another Coffee with Doc. It's a packed May, so we'll tune in about the same time next week. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe out there.
Thanks. Good night.